Welcome back, McFly subscribers. Today we're finishing up this month's dry Stonefly series with the Chubby Chernobyl. Now I will discuss this fly in more depth later in the video, as I'm sure you want to get started tying. But in case you haven't seen this channel before, this is McFly Angler.
Starts now.
Okay, let's get started tying. Place the hook securely in your vise. For a hook, I'm using Resin's Barbless Nymph 9231 in size 8. Now you might ask, why a nymph hook for a dry fly? Well, this is a high floating foam fly, which should hold up this heavier wire hook just fine. And the extra weight will help stabilize the fly on top of the water, and give you some extra strength for pulling in those big fish that will eat it. Another reason for this hook is that it's an extra long hook, and a down eye, which is what you want. Now you might have noticed that the package here says short shank. However, that's a misprint. You can see this newer package of the same hooks in a different size, that it says 2x long, which is what these 9231s are. And Resin had this misprint corrected many years ago. Just I still have one of the old packages of theirs. Okay, we will also need some thread. And today I'm using Vivis 140 in black. Now this is a fairly heavy thread, especially for a dry fly. But that's actually beneficial to use on this fly. You could use something like this 6/0 thread if you wish. However, the Vivis 6/0 is a round thread, which could cut into the foam. So it's best to use a flat thread, and don't go too fine. This 140 is actually great for this fly. Okay, let's start the thread up by the hook eye. Exact placement doesn't really matter. Then snip off the waist, and then bring your thread down to the start of the bend of the hook. Now we need some crystal flash, and I'm using red. Clip one strand off the hank, and then fold it in half and align the tips. Then fold it in half again. Snip off the loop and you will end up with 4 strands. Tie this in at the back of the hook, in the center of the bunch with a couple wraps. Then pull the forward-facing fibers rearward, and tie them back to make 8 total strands. Then cut off the strands about a hook gap width off the back, and open spiral wrap up the hook shank to get back up to the eye of the hook. Now we need some dubbing, and today I'm using a very flashy Diamond Bright in orange. Pull a fair amount out, as we need quite a bit. And then separate it slightly in your fingers. There are many different dubbings you could use, and here is some Antron that is popular for this fly. Okay, let's dub some of the dubbing onto your thread in a thick and loose noodle. Then start wrapping down your hook, covering all the thread with touching wraps. End with your thread right at the start of the flash tail. Now we need some foam, and I have these really cool modeled photo foam pieces in 2mm. I also am using the Chernobyl Ant cutter today, but you can also hand cut the pieces if you don't have one of these. They are really cool though, and come with these cutting pads. Just place the cutter on the foam with the open space hanging off the foam, and then push down hard and wiggle the cutter back and forth. Now sometimes they don't cut all the way through on one side, and if that happens to you, then just cut them the rest of the way off with your scissors. Now these cutters help you make perfect uniform bodies, which is really helpful with these flies. You can cut a bunch of bodies prior to tying if you want. Here I cut up 4. Also you can tie these in multiple colors with different color foam. Olive, tan, and brown are popular. Also some bright colors like yellow and pink. Really, the colors are endless. You can also use 3mm foam if you want, which is beneficial for the larger size hooks. These cutters also come in different sizes. These are their small, extra small, and micro sizes. They do come bigger. And you can buy sets like these, which come with a block holder. These are the Chernobyl cutters that are rounded on both sides. Place a dot of super glue on the back here where we're going to tie the foam in. Then place the foam piece on top of the hook so that the front sticks out slightly past the hook eye. And then push down so the foam drapes over the hook shank like so. Then make a couple wraps, binding down tighter with each wrap. Now we need to make a gap here to properly seat the legs and wing. So wrap back slightly until you reach the start of the hook bend, and then go forward as well. Now we need some rubber legs, and I'm using these centipede legs in speckled orange color and medium size. Cut 2 off the hank, and then grab one and fold it in half, and also align those tips. Then tie this on in the center of the legs with one light wrap. Cut off the loop so you make 2 even legs. Then pull one side towards you so it's on the side of the fly like so, and the other over to the other side. Then tighten your thread and make one more tight wrap. Now for the wing. I'm using this water silk in white, which is similar to EP fiber. Now there are no good ways to explain how much we need, but separate about this much from the hank, and then cut it off. Here's a visual representation of the amount that you need here. Now traditionally I think these use a post material for the wing like this Polypro, which comes in exact widths on a card like so. Another great option is McFly lawn. It's not associated with me, by the way. I wish though, because it's great stuff. And Parapost wing can work as well. There are many different colors that you could use from any of these synthetic fibers. But the water silk works great, and comes in many color options as well. Much more than I have here. And it also can be used for streamers as well, because you get quite a bit per package. Okay, place this on top of the fly and make a couple wraps, with just a little sticking out of the back like so. And then bring your thread back to the start of the tie-in there, and bend the forward-facing fibers rearward, and make one wrap over it once again. Then I like to flare out the fibers a bit by pushing on the wrap with my thumb like so. Okay, when you're happy with the positioning, make a couple more wraps to make sure it's tied in tight, and now let's add a bit more of that dubbing to the thread, and use this noodle to cover up the thread wraps that you just made. Then pull all the materials up and back, and make a wrap in front of them. Then add more dubbing and wrap up to just behind the hook eye. And you can add more dubbing if you need. Now end with your thread right behind the hook eye, and add a dot of superglue. We will now push the foam down and around the hook before taking a couple tight wraps. Then make a couple more wraps to create another space. We probably should have done this before, but we now need that extra wing material, so cut off the tail with a little room like so. At this point we will do the same thing as the previous step. Add the legs and tie them in the same way. Then the wing, but make sure it extends back as far as the previous wing. Finally, more dubbing to cover up all the thread wraps. And then end with your bare thread right behind the hook eye. And now you can whip finish your fly like so. To cement the head, I like this Solarez Ultra Thin resin, which comes with a handy paintbrush in the cap. Paint a little on the whip finish and then cure it in with your UV light. And this will never come loose. You could leave the wings long like this if you wish, but I prefer to trim the wings. Before trimming, make sure that you brush out the wings, and make sure the fibers are all aligned properly. These can be trimmed in a couple different ways, but how I like to do them is keep my scissors angled downward so that the shape of the wing is almost a perfect pyramid, then make the cut ensuring that there is a tiny amount sticking off the back. Inevitably, you will have to clean up a few more spots with some more trims, and it's a good idea to give this another quick brushing with your fingers in case there were any trap fibers not trimmed. Straighten that edge up if you wish with one more cut, and that looks really good. Now Solarez has this new stuff called Buoyant Armor. It's a UV resin that keeps things floating, and I believe you can add an applicator tip to this, but it works just fine like this as well. Dab a little onto the base of the wing, then brush it through with your fingers, ensuring it's on both sides, and work it up a little towards the top of the wing. Now let's hold this wing into shape and position, and then cure it with your UV light. Now this is going to do two things. First, it will help the fly float, since it is formulated to assist with flotation. And second, it's going to hold that wing into position a little better, keeping it from getting matted as easy with fish strikes. Okay, let's give it one more cut to clean up the edge if you want that look. And that looks great to me. What do you all think? Should the wing be trimmed clean like this or left long? Okay, let's try to get those rubber legs into position. You can manipulate them slightly by tugging on them. Just don't tug too hard or they will break off. But if that won't work, you can use some of that ultra thin resin and paint a little on the base of the leg, and then hold it into position and cure it in that position. As you can see, it left the leg angled out a bit more. Once the legs are all in the position that you want them, then trim the legs to your desired length. Now some people like to keep them super long like this, but I like them a bit shorter. How short you trim the legs is up to you. I personally find trimming them slightly shorter like this helps keep them from fouling on the hook, but the drawback is that they don't move quite as much in the water. How do you all like to trim the legs? Tell me in the comments section below. While not necessary, you can also knock the corners off the head part here. And as you can see, it gives the head a more polished look. Alright, well there we go. The finished Chubby Chernobyl. Probably one of the best indicator type flies ever created. I mean, I don't think there is any situation where you cannot see this fly sitting on top of the water. That huge tuff of material sticking up above the water's surface makes this incredibly visible. But these are also pretty effective at drawing strikes as well. They do represent a stonefly very well, and in my opinion, that's what these Chernobyl-style flies represent best. I mean, I really haven't seen an ant this big, so I believe they're only called a Chernobyl ant because the shape loosely looks like one, but not because the flies represent an ant to a fish. Now, it doesn't matter what this fly represents though, as it is incredibly effective in most situations. I fished this in many rivers where stoneflies aren't even present, and trout, bass, and sunfish gobble them up willingly. These can be tied in many different colors, to represent whatever type of stonefly or hopper, or whatever you want it to be. And here is one with olive antron dubbing in different color legs, and this crazy one here with a chartreuse wing, and the dubbing that has little rubber legs in it, and modeled silly legs rather than the round rubber legs. The wing, legs, dubbing, and even foam colors can be switched out, to make whatever color combos you want. Well, this fly will wrap up our Stonefly series this month, as I have filled my fly box. I hope you all enjoyed each one of these Stonefly pattern tutorial videos. To recap, I started off this series with the stimulator, and then tied the Madam X, last week the PMX, and wrapped it all up with this Chubby Chernobyl. And next month I plan on tying mayfly dries for you all. Fitting for the month of May, don't you think? And I'm starting off the series next week with the classic Adam's fly. So make sure you're subscribed and hit that bell notification so you don't miss any future videos, like this Adam's. Now, in case you're all wondering, yes, I do sell these fly boxes on Amazon with free shipping. They're super slim and fit in most shirt pockets for quick runs to the water, or you can put multiple in a chest pack and organize by fly type like this Stonefly box. Now, these work great for all small nymphs and most dry flies, but this is a very large dry fly and it just does not fit in these compartments. You really need something like this with a bit more depth to it for these flies. Now, I used to sell these, but I don't anymore. And as you can see, they fit just fine in this box, which is where I keep all my foam dry flies. The drawback to a larger box like this one is that not many fit in a chest pack, since they are more than double the size of these super slim boxes. Now I'm looking at getting more of these to sell, so if you're interested, let me know in the comment section, and I'll work on getting them made. But in the meantime, check out these awesome magnetic back boxes, which are great for most dry flies and small midges. When fishing small midges, the magnets help keep the flies from falling out, and as you can see here, I'm turning the box upside down and all the flies stay put. I will link to my Amazon storefront below in the description section of this video if you're interested. Also, don't forget to check out my sponsor, Resin Fly. They made the hooks I use today, but they also make some of the best fly rods and reels for the money I have ever used. Best off, they're offering you all a discount. So if you're in the market for a new rod or a bunch of hooks or beads, go to www.resinfly.com and type in McFly at checkout and they'll give you 15% off of your first order with them. Well, thanks for watching, everyone. If you guys like this video, please hit the like button. I will see you on the next video. Now you go catch some fish.